you want to start your own podcast, but you don't know how and where to start, starting a podcast can be fun, engaging, and great. Depending upon your goals, you could be starting a podcast as a fun hobby, a side hustle, or as a business right from the get-go. Yeah guys, welcome to One Maker Studio, where we want to sharpen your video production skills in as little time as possible. In this short video, I'll explain you how to start a podcast, a complete guide for you. So let's get started. For the best podcast templates, you can also visit our website onemaker.io, where you will get enough options to choose from for free and paid templates as well. You can find the link below in the description. How to start a podcast? To start with, a podcast is an audio-only episode series that features one or more hosts talking about a particular topic, subject, or a story. So if you are interested in starting your own podcast, there are a few things you should know in order to get started. First, choose a topic for your podcast. Choosing the right podcast concept for your viewers for the new podcast is a big part of attracting the right listeners and staying committed to your show. First, you really need to come up with a concept for your podcast. When choosing a topic for your podcast, it is important to choose something that you're passionate about and that will interest your audience. Choose a niche topic that isn't too crowded. This will also help you to stand out from the rest. Second, record your episodes. Recording your podcast episode doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, it can be pretty simple if you follow these steps, which includes: first, you'll need to find a quiet space to record. Next, you'll need to set up your recording equipment. Finally, hit the record button and start talking. Once you're finished, all you need to do is save your recording and you're ready to edit and release your episode. Third, edit your episodes. Now that you have recorded your podcast, it's time to edit them. Edit can seem like a daunting task, but it's actually not too difficult. Further in this video, we'll explain the editing process as well. Editing your podcast episodes may take some time, but it will be worth it in the end. Your listeners will appreciate a well-produced podcast that is enjoyable to listen to. Fourth, upload your episodes to a hosting platform. So, if you are thinking about starting a podcast, one of the first things you'll need to know is to choose a hosting platform. So, here are some things to keep in mind as you choose a podcast hosting platform. First, ease of use. You should be able to easily upload your episodes and manage your podcast from the hosting platform. Second, distribution. Make sure the hosting platform you choose will help you get your podcast distributed to the other major podcast platforms, which includes iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Next comes up analytics. Look for a platform that offers detailed analytics that you can see how your podcast is performing. Though there's no perfect podcast hosting platform, but take the time to find one that meets your needs. It will help you to make your podcast a good success. Fifth, promote your podcast. So, if you have a podcast, there are a few ways you can promote it to help grow your listener base. One way is to submit your podcast to the directories like iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast. This will make it easy for the potential listeners to find and subscribe to your show. You can also promote your podcast on the social media using hashtags and keywords that relate to your topic. 6. Listen to the feedback and improve. As a podcast host, it's really important to listen to the feedback and take it to the heart. After all, podcasting is a two-way street. You need to be able to engage with your audience and deliver content that they are interested in. What equipment do you need to start a podcast? So if you are thinking about starting a podcast, there are a few things you'll need in order to get started, which includes computer. In today's time, everyone has a computer or laptop. Recording audio doesn't require much performance from your system, so even if you have an older machine, it should work. Next, audio software for podcasting. To produce a high-quality podcast, you really need a right digital audio workstation software. Next, podcast microphones, podcast cables, audio interfaces, audio mixer. Some additional podcasting equipments are must, which includes microphone stands, headphones extensions, pop filters, and windscreens. How to record and edit your podcast. What format should your podcast be in? The first decision you really need to make when producing a podcast is choosing which format it will be in, and it greatly depends on the content. Your podcast format is the way your show's content is organized and structured in a well-mannered way. The majority of the podcasts stick to one format throughout their journey, throughout their show. Sticking to a consistent podcast format also helps you as a producer. It's usually best to choose a tried and true format so you can apply a twist to the same. So here are some of the most popular podcast formats, which include interview podcasts, panel podcasts, educational podcasts, solo podcasts, non-fictional, storytelling plus news, podcast theater, multi-host podcasts, and many more. You really need to find the right format for your show. Though the best way for doing this is just ask yourself what makes sense with how you talk about the topics like these. How to market your podcast. Podcasting has become a popular way to share information and stories and connect with an audience. So if you have a podcast that you would like to promote, there are a few marketing strategies that can help you to increase your visibility and reach a wider audience. Releasing at least 3 episodes on launch day. Make sure to list your podcast in all of the major directories such as Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. You should also create social media accounts for all of your podcasts and share episodes regularly. Make sure to participate in the podcast directories and listings. Be a guest on other people's podcasts. Prompt your listeners to subscribe, share, and leave reviews. You can also collaborate with other podcasters or celebrities or participate in the podcast directories and listings. So if your podcasts have more than 15 minutes, organize it into chapters. By following these simple tips, you can ensure that your podcast reaches a very large audience and continues to grow and evolve. At least I have done this to my podcast. This is how you start a podcast in a nutshell. So if you have any question, leave them in the comment below, and you can also subscribe to our channel, which is completely free. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I thank you as always for spending time with me. I'll see you soon the next time with another great value, with another great lesson. Till then, bye-bye and happy creation.